People are often led into delusions and suffering by their worldly passions. However, there are 5 ways to free oneself from these bonds. First, it is essential to develop a right understanding of things, an understanding grounded in careful observation and a clear grasp of cause and effect. Suffering arises from the mind's desires and attachments, which are fueled by mistaken perceptions rooted in the ego self. These perceptions often ignore the law of cause and effect. True peace can only be found when the mind is freed from such worldly passions. Second, one must practice patient and attentive mind control to overcome these mistaken views. Through disciplined mental awareness, it becomes possible to prevent desires from taking root. Desires that arise through the stimulation of the senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and the thoughts that follow. By cutting off these desires at their source, one can eliminate the root of all worldly passions. Third, people should cultivate a correct understanding of the proper use of all things. For instance, food and clothing should not be seen as sources of comfort or pleasure, but as necessities that serve the body's essential needs. Clothing exists to protect the body from extremes of heat and cold, and to preserve modesty. Food is required to nourish the body as it trains toward enlightenment and Buddhahood. When viewed in this way, with purpose and clarity, worldly passions do not arise. Fourth, one must learn the value of endurance. This means being able to withstand discomforts such as heat and cold, hunger and thirst, and to remain patient in the face of abuse or insult. It is through the practice of endurance that the flames of worldly passions burning away at the body and mind can be extinguished. Fifth, people should develop wisdom to recognize and avoid danger. Just as a wise person avoids wild horses or mad dogs, so too should one steer clear of harmful companions and places that the wise would shun. Through caution and prudence, the fire of worldly passions, which consumes from within, will begin to die down. Desires arise through the 5 senses, from forms perceived by the eyes, sounds heard by the ears, fragrances detected by the nose, tastes enjoyed by the tongue, and sensations felt through touch. These 5 sensory gateways give rise to the body's craving for comfort. Most people, influenced by this craving, fail to recognize the dangers that come with indulgence. As a result, they are ensnared in a trap like a deer caught unaware in a hunter's snare deep in the forest. Indeed, these 5 doors of sensory desire are among the most dangerous traps. Once caught in them, people become entangled in worldly passions and suffer greatly. It is essential that they learn how to free themselves from these snares. There is, however, no single path to liberation from the traps of desire. Imagine, for example, capturing 6 very different creatures: a snake, a crocodile, a bird, a dog, a fox, and a monkey. You tie them together with a strong rope, release them. Each will try to return to its natural habitat. The snake will head for the grass, the crocodile for the water, the bird will attempt to fly, the dog will seek a village, the fox will retreat to rocky ledges, and the monkey will climb toward the trees. Each struggles to go its own way, but because they are bound together, whichever is strongest at any given moment will drag the others along with it. In the same way, the human mind is tied to many conflicting desires and instincts. Unless these inner forces are brought under control, the strongest impulse at any moment will dominate and lead the rest astray. Therefore, to break free from suffering, one must tame the mind and all its wild tendencies. Just like the creatures in the parable, people are drawn in different directions by the desires of their 6 senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought. Whichever desire is strongest at any moment tends to dominate and control them. However, if all six creatures were tied to a post, they would struggle at first to break free. Eventually, exhausted, they would lie down quietly by the post. In the same way, if people train and discipline the mind, tying it, so to speak, to the post of mindfulness and wisdom, the other senses will gradually settle down and stop pulling in conflicting directions. Once the mind is under control, the rest will follow, and a person will experience peace and happiness both now and in the future. Another powerful source of suffering is the ego's love of comfort, particularly the craving for fame and praise. But these things are fleeting like incense that burns away as it releases its fragrance, quickly vanishing into nothing. If people chase after recognition and public approval while turning away from the path of truth, they place themselves in grave danger and are bound to feel regret. A person who runs after fame, wealth, and romantic pleasures is like a child licking honey from the blade of a knife, seduced by the sweetness but unaware of the harm. Or like someone carrying a burning torch against a strong wind, the flame may light the way for a moment, but it is sure to burn the hands and face. In the same way, worldly pleasures often carry hidden pain, and unless one is wise and cautious, they can lead to deep suffering. One must be cautious not to trust a mind clouded by greed, anger, and ignorance. A mind left unchecked will run wild, leading to suffering and confusion. Therefore, it must be held under firm discipline and guidance. Achieving perfect mind control is one of the most challenging tasks. Those who seek enlightenment must begin by extinguishing the flames of desire. Desire is like a raging fire, and one who walks the path to enlightenment must avoid it as carefully as a person carrying a bundle of dry hay would avoid sparks. Yet, it would be foolish to go to extremes, like blinding oneself out of fear of being tempted by beauty. The senses are not the enemy. The real challenge lies within. The mind is the true master. If the mind is brought under control, the pull of weaker desires will naturally fade away. The journey to enlightenment is difficult, but it is even harder for those who do not set their hearts on it. Without the light of enlightenment, one is trapped in the endless cycle of birth and death, bound to suffer without end. To seek enlightenment is like an ox pulling a heavy cart through a muddy field. If the ox focuses on its task and doesn't get distracted, it will eventually pass through the mud and find rest. In the same way, when the mind is kept steady and on the right path, the mud of greed and craving will no longer be a hindrance and suffering will fall away. Those who seek the path to enlightenment must begin by letting go of egoistic pride and opening their hearts with humility to receive the light of the Buddha's teachings. All the treasures of the world, its gold, silver, and honors cannot compare to the lasting value of wisdom and virtue. To enjoy good health, bring true happiness to one's family, and help create peace in the world, one must first learn to discipline and control the mind. If a person can master their own mind, the path to enlightenment becomes clear, and wisdom and virtue will arise naturally. Just as precious treasures are uncovered by digging into the earth, so too does virtue emerge from good deeds, and wisdom blossoms from a mind that is pure and at peace. In order to navigate the complex maze of human life safely, one needs the light of wisdom and the guidance of virtue. The teachings of the Buddha show how to free oneself from greed, anger, and ignorance. They are a guide to a meaningful life, and those who follow them find true happiness.